Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Ari, Hallie, congratulations, you escaped!
And Kyle too.
Oh, Kyle, we can congratulate in spirit. He's not on this recording. He is floating around in the ether, listening in, but he's not going to be part of the actual recording.
He didn't make it out of the dollhouse.
So yeah, Kyle was a sacrifice, and he stayed in the dollhouse.
Your wish was very specific in that point.
Yeah, we would like 2/3 of our brain and our entire body to return to human form. It's the ghost of Kyle. Here to just say random thoughts or insights if you want to insert any of them, but you don't have to. I'm just going to kind of go for a little bit. Congratulations.
Thank you. We worked so hard.
Yeah. It was really fun. I really liked it. I thought we were gonna get stuck on the animal puzzle, but we solved it.
Yeah. I was trying to make anagrams.
Yeah, it is one of these things. Like you guys did really well. And you got through the entire room, and it's not an easy room. Like there's some real puzzles, but yeah, it is one of those things where you see a lot of letters, and your mind starts going through every possible thing that you could ever do with these letters.
Any word puzzle you have ever seen in your life.
Yep.
And it was literally, and Kyle was the one who finally kind of noticed that connection of it. There were 10 vertical sections. It's like 10 sections with one of four, like with 4 options, compared to the 10 steps with 4 stamps. And like that, as soon as you get that connection, you guys solved it straight away. And but yeah, it just takes a while. You have to work through everything until it all clicks.
I am so much better at word puzzles, so I was hoping that it was going to be like
pure anagrams.
Boggle them out. Yeah, I was really hoping for that. Way better at those.
And so when I was playtesting the room, I did exactly the same thing. I looked at all those letters. I was like, can I find extra words? Is it like a big find a word sort of thing? Am I going around in a pattern? Or it's very tempting to try and do all of the word puzzle skills you have. And then you don't need any of them in the end.
And when you write ones like this, you just go, great, I just need the letters, reach over T, and then I'll fill in the rest with random letters. And you have to you just got to cross your fingers and hope you haven't accidentally put in something that catches people's attention. Which I didn't. The letters were not the letters of the real word bear, and they weren't in order, B-E-R. So I feel okay about that one. That was an example of players red herringing themselves.
Yeah.
Did either of you have a moment in this recording that you felt that you enjoyed the most, or you felt smart?
I did briefly when you were like, "Oh, Hallie made a connection earlier," but then like the spotlight was on me to remember that connection and like remake it, and then that was so stressful.
Yeah, I think that's Billy's least favorite part of playtests is when I say, "Well, you've already found the solution to that one."
You have to look back through your notes. And go, what do you mean? What do you mean? I've already found it.
I was so excited, and then I'm so much smarter when I'm not in an escape room is the thing. If this is like a video, like if I'm in front of a video screen and I'm like, okay, I've got a few hours to just play, I'm so good at things. And then you put me in an escape room vibe, even one that's just recorded with no actual 1 hour time limit. And I'm like, I don't know what things are called.
What do I do?
It's like that. Some of that can happen to the smartest people. Like, do you ever watch Cracking the Cryptic?
I never heard of Cracking the Cryptic.
It's a YouTube channel of people, and they do things like they will do cryptic crosswords and stuff like that. But the big thing that they do is these 2 men, and they are Sudoku experts. Any kind of weird Sudoku that you can come up with, the hardest in the world, they can do in an hour tops. And yet, there was a stream that they did once where they played Escape Simulator, the online escape room game, and it was hard to watch. It's fascinating how your brain just compartmentalizes. It's smart sometimes.
It just decides when to bring it out. So that was both a victorious moment and a downfall for me at once.
I wanted you, Ari. Was there anything? Because I think you did very well throughout the whole room. Is there anything that you felt especially good about?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate that. I liked when I found out what the animal with the fuzzy thing was. I knew
yes.
that it was a whale, and I'm just really happy that it was.
Was
me.
it you who said that right at the
Yes.
start? As soon as I mentioned Mushroom Cloud Head, I think it was you who said, "Oh, I hope it's a whale, but it's probably a lion."
Yes, and then you convinced
Yeah,
yourself
it
it
was
was a
me.
lion. I was so when you said whale straight away, I was like, they got it immediately. It took him no time at all. Ah.
Yeah, well, that I just said because Hallie doesn't like whales, so I was like,
Kyle has asked us to explain the whales. I'm afraid of them. That's all
You're
there
afraid
is.
of whales? Do you have a bad whale story?
No, they're just so big. Like they're just so big. And we went to Disneyland recently, and there was a giant Monstro thing from Pinocchio, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I think maybe it was Monstro from Pinocchio, or several movies that had penguins in them. I watched as children, where killer whales are always like the villains, you know. So
Monstro especially was a scary thing.
Monstro is so scary.
And so big.
It's filmed pretty freakily.
Yeah.
And I am like.
None of us are afraid of whales, but we're definitely afraid of Monstro.
Yeah, and understand Monstro does not represent all whales. Whales are gentle giants, nothing wrong with them, but they are so freaking big, and they could swallow you whole, and you could just be alive there, and I don't like that at all. So.
On the most recent Taskmaster episode, right at the end, they ended up in a very brief debate about which would make a more dangerous pet, a snake or a blue whale. And they ended up saying snake, and I found that curious.
It's a blue whale because it could crush you trying to hug you. It just could.
Oh.
It could.
It wouldn't know.
It wouldn't know. No, they're fine. They're lovely. I can't be near them.
It's one of those things, like, as a kid, I think a lot of kids go through, like, a dinosaur phase. You get, like, really into all dinosaurs. Like, whoa, Brontosaurus, oh, look at this thing. And then you find out at some point, like, oh, do you know that the biggest animal to ever exist is still alive now? It's a blue whale. It's bigger than anything that's ever existed. And you're like, oh, man, that's crazy. That thing's too big.
It is too big. I was at a museum and they had a giant whale.
Oh, the big skeleton.
Yeah. And I was just like, I can't be in this room. Like, this is.
It's interesting, the different reactions. Like,
And
I
they got
definitely
4 legs.
have that sort of reaction to some creatures, but for me, whales are very much a majestic awe more than others.
One thing that was really interesting was the ebb and flow of the room. Like, we spent so long on that dang, on the dang red, blue, brown, and I forget, green. We spent so long on that dang alphabet puzzle. But then we solved it, opened the chest, got the magnet, and then immediately we're like, oh, we got to go up and we got to move the thing. And they weren't like related puzzles or anything, but it was very interesting how we were either going very, very fast or very, very slow. And I don't know, it's just interesting how that works. And I'm very curious how much of that is pre-planned. Like, obviously, you can't know how quickly people will get certain puzzles. But I am curious if the idea that, oh, some of these are going to go very fast, oh, some of these are going to get very slow was baked into it. And similarly, if you had an idea of when each type would happen. Like the magnet thing, for me, felt like a reward because it wasn't really like, oh, here's another puzzle. It was, oh, I have this thing. I immediately know the only thing I can use it on. I've got an idea how to solve this. But it was also a puzzle in its own way. I say in its own way. No, it was a puzzle. We didn't know the thing was metal. Figuring it out was the puzzle.
I have a question.
Ooh.
Did playing through this room, was there, and I don't know if there was there a purse moment? Was there anything that people felt bad they're like, oh, I can't believe I never checked this. Oh, what a fool I am. I think generally you all did quite well.
I kind of had that when you were like, well, Hallie's made the connection. I was like, no, I don't have the purse. And then
you
later,
did say that.
when we were doing the the toilet because I had said something like oh, the middle of the bed is where you would be on the toilet.
You did.
And then I didn't, and then I was like, yeah, it's the reflection, but I didn't like, what if we just put the toilet on the bed where it clearly wants to be?
That could have been an easier way around it. Yeah, you could have used
that-
your powerful magnet to help you get it there.
Coulda
But yeah,
done
you
that.
had the image right, clearly. in
That
your
was my
head.
purse. I was like, man, I was 1 second away from sounding just like so clever.
good. Yeah.
So good.
You know, at least we did escape. So
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
for
you
sure.
did, and you got them all in the end. The thing that was interesting here is there's like a whole new sort of skill set that you have to have in audio escape rooms, which is without the visual, things that are visual descriptions become like hidden little clues. Like in a real
Yeah.
escape room, you would never forget that the toilet was super reflective because every time you looked at it, it would be super reflective.
Right.
But in audio, it's like it's almost like this is the form, and I say this all the time. In audio, like that's how you search in audio is remembering and associating these keywords. So like the searching isn't like opening the drawer and reaching down the back. It's going, wait a minute. I've got words, and I know that there's a toilet, but the toilet has a reflective thing, and I'm it's almost searching your own notes or like.
And I try to make it a thing that even if you don't think to write it down, I'm hoping it will stick in your memory when I try to make a subtle big deal out of it by mentioning it and then making jokes about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is
haha,
so
you've
good.
got an ugly reflected doll face.
It's so good though. I think that the way that you adapt it to an audio format is so clever, and your rooms are really good. Like I would have loved this room as a physical room, but it was so fun to play through it with audio to just be like, well, I want to, which room is it? Like instead of like looking around the one room and shouting to your friend 2 feet away, like, hey, I'm still looking at this thing.
And I think your clues are great too, like the way you like kind of like if we're like completely off the rails on like our like you're really good at kind of railing us back like, oh no, you can't open that, like there's nothing there.
Yeah,
Like,
a
it's-
lot of the time it is just not trying to solve puzzles for you, just trying to hone you in so you know the right thing to be looking at any given moment.
Oh no, I didn't feel like you were solving it for us. It was just like,
Good.
oh, there's nothing there. Like, don't like waste your time looking over there.
Right, you didn't let us waste our time or brain energy, you know, like you didn't let us investigate something for 5 minutes only to be like, actually, there's nothing there, which would have been so like deflating for
Yeah,
us
that's
as players.
the hope. Oh, also, all right, right at the start, you went, I want to check under the couch cushions right away.
yeah,
And
did.
you absolutely needed to.
that started the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's also another moment where I felt smart. But I also like because I'm usually really bad at visualizing things when I'm not actually seeing things. Like I have really bad like special orientation. But I felt like it wasn't a problem for this room. Like the way I mean, I did take notes, but the way you like narrated where things were and what things were there.
Oh, I'm
was
glad.
so useful
It
for
is a
me.
pretty simple one as far as they go, very much related to my dollhouse experience where I had some doll furniture, but it wasn't like a fully decked out Barbie's dream house or anything. It was just plain wood, 2 pieces of furniture per room. And so I felt like just relying on that simplicity meant
Which
that
is-
it wouldn't go too crazy.
Yeah, because we probably would have gone insane if there was anything more to like. I wanted to like pick up everything, and which is great too because in a physical escape room, they tell you like, "Hey, please respect the stuff. Don't treat it roughly. If something doesn't open right away, don't force it." But here, it could be like, "What happens if we kick the lamp?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
and like yeah, and like there's
And
no.
you know what? You had to sharpen someone's arms off in this one. I
Yeah.
couldn't be too restrictive about your violence.
Which I hope she's okay.
Ah,
Check
she'll
up on
be
her.
It's
fine.
fine.
Oh.
Pamela's fine.
One example I really like of setting a clue early on was that wooden table, because you had spent so much time going into detail on this table is made out of really nice wood. You know, it looks perfect. It's not painted. It's one of the few nice things in there. And it's got these screws. Like that description really stuck with me, as opposed to some other things, which is like, oh yeah, it's made out of plastic, whatever. And I thought that was really neat. when we realized the pencil sharpener might be relevant, I actually thought back to that wooden table. Now, the fact that that was wooden wasn't as relevant as the screws, but both of those were things I remembered, and the fact that it was wooden made it jump to mind when I was like, I have this thing that's used to scrape down wood.
It is interesting because that is one of these things with the way the audio rooms work is often like the room will just be like, here are 3 objects in the room to look at. And so if you have trouble with certain spatial reasoning or being able to picture that whole scene, as long as you know the 3 objects that are there to look at, you can kind of tick them off. And then the rest, any other details are all just supplied by picture you're in a dollhouse. And then your brain goes,
Yeah.
I know what a dollhouse, great. And then I go, great, now there are these 3 things.
Yeah.
And it's something that makes it so much easier than physical rooms where they have to fill out the space with stuff to make it look like you're in the space. And then they have to be like, oh no, please don't touch this thing. Please don't touch that thing. This one's cut. Whereas we can just go, imagine there's stuff, but we're not going to mention it. So you know it's not part of the puzzle. Here are 3 things. And it helps like you can do a lot in the audio format in terms of having much less in a space, but making it still feel like a cool space.
Like, in theory, I could have said, when you asked if there was a stove in the kitchen, in theory, I could have said, yes, but it's plastic and doesn't function. But that just would have been more annoying and packing things in, even if it gave you a different visual. Yeah, you can fill it up with the other meaningless stuff yourself in your own imagination.
And you played it off so perfectly. I mean, we did an escape room once where, like, they did the whole, like, hey, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And one of the solutions to the puzzle was, like, moving a chair, standing on top of it, and then moving a vent up here, which seems contradictory.
We've done one like that as well.
Yes, we've had one where they said, do not climb on the furniture. And then they went, and when we needed a hint, they said, oh, you should stand on that chair. And I was like, tell me not to climb.
We're not that tall. It felt like that was their intended solution. Like, but yeah,
to be tall.
I mean, no, sorry. Look, we're not that tall. And yet, it still felt like standing on the chair was always going to be part of the solution.
100%.
It's not just like, oh, you don't have a 6-foot person in your team, bad luck.
Yeah, and so it is tough.
Yeah, it's odd if they do that. They really shouldn't.
Or when you have something that you need to open, but it's got just a little too much stiffness, and you go, well, I don't want to pull too hard. I don't want to break it.
I don't want to break it.
And then they're like, come on, why don't you just open the drawer, idiots? You're like, because
we're being nice.
Yeah, they keep using the phrase, oh, just a finger of effort. Well, you know what?
But a real strong
Make
finger.
sure that it works for weak fingers like mine.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah. So
it's nice. There's a refreshingness to the audio space where you can just be like, go nuts, do whatever.
Exactly.
You can't break it. It's in my brain.
If worst comes to worst, I say no.
Which is wonderful. That took off so much of the stress, I think, of like being in an escape room.
I mean, and being the game master as well, because obviously in an RPG, just saying no isn't something you can rely on quite as much.
There was also, it was really funny when we lapsed into like, okay, Pamela, we have to convince Pamela to do the thing that we want. And then you were like, this isn't a puzzle. You could just do it. You don't have to like, you just tell us what you're doing.
She will say yes, but I just feel like it'll be a weird moment if I say, yeah, sure, you can sharpen her arms down. She's now got pointy arms. And then you don't have anything to do with that.
No, fully. It's just so funny how we immediately lapsed back into TTRPG. Okay, well, we need you to do us a big solid, Pam.
I still find it funny that there was so much emphasis on you don't have to worry about the spelling, you don't have to worry about the spelling, you don't have to worry about the spelling, which is interesting and useful because it's one of those things that I feel like there are certain things we wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to until they're brought to mind with another puzzle, and then you have to be very careful about what you use. So the example I'm thinking of is the glasses. So I brought the glasses up all the time with the water, the little thimbles, because I love them. But one thing that prevented me from fully committing to them with, for example, the stairs was, I toyed around with them a little bit, and obviously I was told, hey, maybe don't use the glasses on the stairs. Maybe that's not the way forward. But, and I could be wrong in my memory here, but I remember it being either a dozen or half a dozen. And the fact that it was 6 or 12 made it so that those glasses only really appeared in my mind when I was like getting pretty desperate on the puzzle with the steps. But because everything else had 10 and that had 6 or 12, I was like, oh, okay, this is a different number. It could be relevant, but it feels like a stretch. But if a precedent had been set up so that any number other than 10 or 4 was being used with the other puzzle, I would have had a lot harder time avoiding the water. And again, I already had a hard enough time because I liked it enough.
It was a great mix though, because we got to satisfy our TTRPG needs, which was like, oh, we want to kick the lamp. And like we want to do
That's
this
all you
silly
need in
thing.
an RPG.
Oh, I'm glad that
all
we
you
could make
need.
that lamp kick a bit functional.
Yeah,
to
we just want to
like,
kick the lamp, and we want to say mean things to Pam, and we got to do that. But it was also like, you know, refreshing to just be like, okay, so I as a person am thinking this. What if we did that and have that also be part of the game?
Yes, yeah, you're not so fully in character. Like it is still fundamentally, it isn't like it doesn't matter who Dollboy is.
Yeah,
It's Kyle, it's Ari, it's Hallie. Like that's who is in the space.
Because that's so much. People are always trying to combine TTRPGs with escape rooms and put puzzles into their D&D games and things like that. And to an extent it can work, but it's also a real pain because you can't rely on your players' intelligence to the same extent because they've got characters with their own intelligence.
Yeah.
right. Who would think about their own like way of approaching the puzzle and
are likely extremely destructive.
Yeah.
very
Well,
likely.
that too. Yeah, but it like puzzles when they're very specifically puzzles, it is hard to not just be like, well, my wizard has an intelligence of 22. He's an arcane who does nothing but puzzles, so he would just know this. I don't know this, but he would. So he can do all the anagrams in his head, and you're like, that is fair. And so it's a bit of a different dynamic. Whereas we can just be like, Dollboy knows what you know, and that's it.
Yeah.
You are Dollboy. Dollboy is you.
The Venn diagram is a circle.
So the other thing is, like, we mentioned this a little, or you were talking about this a little bit earlier. You've both done plenty of escape rooms, or at least enough escape rooms.
Yeah.
How did this feel compared to a normal escape room experience for you?
Definitely less frustrating, actually. I think because I'm like in an escape room, like I was thinking, like, I guess it was kind of a drawback because I like pacing in an escape room, but I actually think it's the opposite. I think just like I was sitting here and just like rewriting things like fridge, toilet, like there's nothing,
Fridge.
fridge. Yeah, like there's just repeated notes in here. If I was in a physical escape room, I probably would have just been walking back and forth. But like, it's such a confined space. But because you're locked in and it's not your space, it feels way more confined than just sitting at my computer thinking about this visual space. So there was definitely a lot less pressure. Nobody's like watching me who I can't see. So that's
True.
So that's a plus.
Yeah, we're watching, but you can see us.
Well,
But
except for-
Oh, now
except
Kyle. Now
now.
Kyle who's watching this conversation, but unable
we
to
don't-
talk.
We don't care about Kyle. It was a lot more relaxing, and thus I had more fun thinking about the puzzles and trying to solve them.
Same. Yeah, because I feel like it's kind of a bit more overwhelming. Like I like them, but it's more overwhelming because like the timer is going down, and then everybody's doing their own thing, and sometimes you don't know even what's going on with which puzzle everybody's doing. And here I like that we are all three of us are the same character, the same person doing the same kind of puzzle, and like. That sounds, I don't know, because sometimes he's like, what are you doing? Oh, this is already solved. Oh, this is already solved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Like,
biggest thing I
you're lost.
dislike about doing a physical escape room is if your group is too big and things are getting solved that you didn't even see happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
like one time I was like spending time trying to solve something that had already been solved and I just
Yeah.
didn't know. And I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's okay. So
it is tough. Like we do that now when we go and do physical rooms. We'll often, whenever anyone is getting to the end of a puzzle, we'll stop and be like, hey, everybody. I'm about to solve this one. Do you want to come around and see how this puzzle solves? And then everyone gathers
yeah.
around. We solve
That's
that.
a
We're
good
great.
idea.
Now get
Okay.
out of here. And we never
We're gonna
we try not
adopt
to
that.
input unless everyone's there, or at least they've had the offer. Be like, does everyone want to come see this? And people are like, no, I'm solving this. Tell me about it later. But I like that because it is a thing that is annoying sometimes when you're in an escape room, especially when you have, say, more than 4 people. If you've got 5 or 6 people in the escape room, you'll only see like 30% of it. You'll just be like, oh, did
Yeah.
someone do this? Oh yeah, that was the thing about like numbers and they looked like the candles. Okay, I guess. All right, tell me about. I guess. Oh, and so it's tough. And I like in this one that because everyone is one person, because we
You
have to
see
focus it for
everything
the
get solved.
audience.
Right.
It
Yeah.
becomes very focused for the players as well. Like
Yeah, it's
you can
less
only interact
hectic.
with Danny, so Danny can only do one thing at a time. So nothing's ever happening too much.
And I think like, I mean, we already talked about it a bit, but like the fact that you like keep us from being derailed too much, I also liked it more than in actual escape rooms where like they usually don't tell you.
It'll take
like,
a
"Oh, well,
while
this-"
before
Yeah.
they'll.
Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
like be spending all of your time doing something, and nobody will tell you that is like a
Nobody.
completely.
We
Yeah, we
did.
did actually. We almost had a moment like that in this episode, which was when you first kind of locked in, like, oh wait, 10 sections of these letters that's going to relate to the 10 stairs, and almost instantly, like it took about 4 seconds, and Carl just went, "Oh, reach over T," and you two were still like, "Okay, there's 10
Yep.
steps, and there's 4," and he was like, "Reach over." And so we had to, but because we know it's for the audience, we had to be like, wait, stop. Kyle, come back, step by step, go through that. And because we had to bring it back there, you all ended up on the exact same page. There was no like, we're not having that moment where at the end of the room, someone's going, what was that reach over T thing?
Right.
What was happening there?
Right.
Like, so
'Cause-
it's nice like that, I think.
Because in the physical room, like there, like we kind of did have a stopping point for tonight, but you know the physical room has the countdown clock. So anytime you want to ask, like, okay, but how did this puzzle go? You're like, well, that's time I could be devoting to a different puzzle.
Exactly.
Escape
It
this-
can be a
this-
bad balancing act.
This room. So like if this had been a physical one, where Kyle was like, reach over T, it would have been like, okay, yeah,
Whatever,
where's
just
the
do
T?
it.
Like, let's go. And we've done rooms like that before, and there is kind of like a fun vibe in like completely separate groups of people being like, I don't know, go find the thing, and other people going like, all right, and like that can be fun. But I think that your way of like, oh, everybody come see how this puzzle solves is like that's great. We're gonna start doing that.
One thing that I find funny is that the fact that the misspellings weren't there, like the fact that the misspellings didn't matter, they were just, we had to figure out what animals they were, was interesting because with the over the T, the reason that stuck out to me was because attention was drawn to the way it was spelled. And kitchen does have a T in it, but it was only because we had spent so much time focusing on the way that our sister spelled things that I was like, hey, wait, there was writing on the box and there was a T there. And I think if we hadn't spent so much time thinking about the way in which our sister wrote, I don't know if that would have jumped to mind as quickly as it did for me.
I think my only last questions are Ari, from your Goosebumps experience.
Oh yes, did this
you
feel like
think-
Goosebumps?
How goosebumpsy was this?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like I think like the kid had that same energy of like a Goosebumps protagonist. It's like, oh, my sister, she's so annoying.
Yeah.
She's doing this. Like I don't know. That just seemed like a classic Goosebumps story.
I
and
tried
then-
to pick a couple of the classic things, like it's a summer break, all your friends are
Yeah.
on camp, your parents are always archaeologists or something that takes them
Yeah.
far away,
and
bratty
you always have
sibling,
an annoying sibling.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
and
Or
all
maybe a
Goose-
bad cousin. Sometimes it's a bratty
Yeah,
cousin.
Occasionally, it's an annoying cousin, but yeah, usually it's a bratty sibling, and the main character is always either a massive coward or a really annoying prankster.
Yep. Yeah. So I love the ending where it's like ambiguous. It's like, oh yeah, I have 10 more wishes.
Yep.
Like,
The one thing that you could have done to make it more goosebumpsy
Mhm.
is you could have been like and maybe you sort of did, but you go like the cupboard opens up, or not even that, like, you know, like you open the trapdoor and you step upside and
And you
suddenly
scream.
something grabs your leg. Oh no! Oh, it's just the
It's that piece
trapdoor
of paper
landing.
you were
Yeah, it's
carrying.
the piece of paper.
You're
Don't
right,
worry
I
about
didn't
it.
do any fake outs.
You needed some big fake
yeah,
outs. Like,
that's classic.
You're right,
But,
that's a rookie error.
The Pamela reveal was so good though, because I was hoping it was a mouse. I was just like, I want to ride a mouse.
I thought it
And-
was a cockroach. That was my first thought when I was playing the room. I was like, "There's a cockroach in there." Because that seems like it's something a kid would do. Is like get the cockroach in a box, Then just tape it up and leave it there. And be like,
Right,
I'm
and then
never
just-
touching this again for the rest of my life.
Forget about it.
There's a
teddy bear or some like type.
But no, it was fun. I enjoyed that reveal as well. It's nice to be like, there's the babysitter. You're like, oh my God, I forgot there was a babysitter who disappeared.
Oh.
That worked out very well. Well, look, I really enjoyed listening to that. Once the episode starts, I don't really do much other than listen. But I think the three of you did really well. It was great to have you on.
It was good fun seeing your process.
Yeah,
It was
you-
really
Thank you for
did
having
very
us.
well.
Yeah, this was a blast.
For people who wanted to check out Quest Friends, where could they go? Where can they find it? I know it feels like Kyle usually does the spruiking
usually
and he's
does,
gone.
but
So one of
this
you will
is
have
his
to pick
fault.
up and do it yourself. But
Um,
where do people go? Get every single social media connection correct.
Okay, we
Letter
have
for
a
letter.
Twitter, and I always get the Twitter wrong because I can never remember if it's an underscore or not that. So let me just. It is an underscore. You can find us. You can find what do you mean? What goes first? That's a social media.
We have a webpage, right?
We have a website.
Get
Wait,
link to the website. That'll link to everything else.
that's true.
Quest Friends.
Friends podcast.
Podcast.
Com. I was right. It's
QuestFriendsPodcast.com.
questfriendspodcast.com, spelled exactly how it sounds. And then you can find all of our stuff, including our Twitter, which does have an underscore on that
But
site.
not where you think.
not where you think.
QU_EST. No, that's not right. Look, there'll be links to all of these below, including the website. But head to the website, go to questfriendspodcast.com and check out all the fun stuff that's going on over in the Quest Friends world. Give it a listen. Is there a good starting point? You've started a campaign.
Yeah, so
recently.
we finished the first season. So the first campaign starts with the Clockwork City and
Ooh, good title.
Turing, or maybe it's Turing Town. No, it's Turing
That's the one with
This is my escape room. I'm so much smarter when I'm not being asked to speak words. So it's Turing Town. Part
Kyle-
one is for our first
Kyle, do you
campaign.
want to record this part after as well?
Okay, so I personally think the massacred version of our promo is what should be kept for where people can find us. I loved it. I thought it was great. But just for clarity's sake, I will repeat that information. So, my friends and I are part of Quest Friends. Quest Friends is an audio cartoon about friendship, family, and ghosts. It's inspired by cartoons like The Owl House and Gravity Falls. Join me and my 4 best friends as we explore everyday life in a realm where the world of the dead is only a plane ride away. We got little trash possum skeleton Pokemon creatures. We've got Seto Kaiba, but so much worse. We've got a pop idol. We have a pop idol villain in our upcoming arc. Our show is currently heading right out of hiatus, actually. We're having a Halloween special, and then we are going to be coming back with regular episodes in November. So now is the perfect time to go back, listen to the old episodes of Season 2 of Quest Friends Hereafter. So starting with Episode 1, An Oasis of Ghosts, and then get caught up. And if you get caught up before we continue, you can go back to our old season, because that's got fun stuff as well. Although that's more a podcast about friendship, family, and robots, because that takes place in the future. You can find all of our stuff at questfriendspodcast.com. All of our social media is there, but the 2 main ones we use are quest_friends on Twitter and TikTok. That being said, at our Tumblr, we like to answer fan questions, and we've been getting quite a bit of those lately. So, if Tumblr is what you use, go check that out. And I won't mention all the other places we're at, because again, go to questfriendspodcast.com. It has information about us, our show, our episodes, all the places you can find us.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was lovely to have you. And definitely, if you're listening, go and check it out. And also, thank you everybody who's listening for listening to the show, and thank you for supporting the show. If you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do, and the easiest thing for you, is tell a friend, or tell an enemy, or tell someone. Jump online, jump on a forum, go to posts where people are talking about completely unrelated podcasts and be like, well, it's nothing compared to this one, and just post all about us.
I wish these guys would be on Escape This Podcast.
That's how you do it. But that's like word of mouth is how people listen to new shows. It's very hard to get people onto new podcasts other than just telling them and having people who trust your judgment. So thank you so much.
People who don't realize escape room podcasting is a thing that can exist.
They don't even know we exist.
They need to know.
They need to know.
Otherwise,
we did not know
Right?
before this invite. So I want to spread that good word.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really fun. I'm definitely gonna spread.
And then the other way, of course, if you want to support the show with money, you can sign up for the Patreon. Anyone who signs up at any level can appear as an NPC in one of Danny's rooms.
Yeah, thank you so much to Vivian Ripoll. Sorry if I don't pronounce that right. And Pamela Yoshimura. Thank you. I feel like you got some pretty good screen time in
and
this
a psychopath. There's also, for $5 donors, there's bonus audio. You can hear the playtest for all of these rooms. You can hear a series where we solve 2-minute mysteries by Donald Sobel and try and figure out weird little crimes. There's a monthly vlog for the $10 donors. There's monthly trivia for the $20 donors. You can do the playtest sometimes if you're a $50 donor. I say sometimes. That's mostly just because you want to donate $50. But there's lots of fun stuff over on the Patreon, and it helps support the show. We don't run any ads. We don't do anything else. That's just how we make our money. And it supports us, and it supports the rest of the audience who gets free content because you're helping make that content. You're like a producer. You're like an executive producer with no power. So thank you so much, everybody, for supporting the show over on Patreon.
We try to give you power by asking for suggestions and things, and then the suggestions you come up with are making more work for yourself.
Oh, don't you ask a patron what can we do as rewards, and they're like, make us do voice acting, make us write this, make us do all this. Hey, get one of us to compile a list of it. No, that's so much work.
For you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you again. And thank you, Danny, for making a lovely room and running it.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
for
you,
being
Danny.
here. Thank you
Thank
for
you, the
playtesting.
ghost of Kyle, for floating around in the ether, because he's not here in this recording, but did very well. And thank you, Ari. Thank you, Hallie. It was lovely. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you again, Danny and Bill, for having us on. This was an absolute blast. I loved going through an escape room, but also having a bit more of the chaotic role-playing fun. You know, as you all mentioned, you can't really do in a regular escape room. And that was an awful lot of fun. It's got me very just creatively inspired, got me those fun October goosebumps, and I can definitely see why fans of Quest Friends like Escape This Podcast so much, because this is a phenomenal show.